Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Our guests today are actor Guy Pearce and interior designer Kathleen Spiegelman. Both of the shows were shot on location, so you'll see us at the Four Seasons Hotel on Doheny Drive when we interview Guy, and you'll see us at Kathleen Spiegelman's showroom in West Hollywood. But let's talk about Guy Pearce. He's a native of Australia. He was known as a heartthrob. He still is known as a heartthrob for his role in a TV series called Neighbors, as well as another series called Home and Away. He's made films and he's acted on stage, and now you're going to see what he says about his new film, Priscilla, The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So Gramercy Pictures took a floor at the Four Seasons Hotel at Beverly Hills, and we all went into different rooms and interviewed the actors. So here's Guy Pearce. Hi, we are here, and we're at the Four Seasons Hotel, and I'm with Guy Pearce, who's a heartthrob in Australia, just like I told you. Hi, Guy.
Hi, how are you?
You started acting when you were 17 years old.
Professionally, yeah. Yeah, I started on a television show there by the name of Neighbours, and it kind of took off. And
Did you always want to be an actor?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of amateur theatre ever since I was about sort of 10 or 11, so it just sort of developed into work.
Well, you didn't take acting lessons then. You were a natural?
Yeah, I'm just still making it up as I go along.
You did you go to acting school?
No,
or?
no.
Were you born in Australia?
I was actually born in England, yeah.
Ah.
I was born in England, and I moved to Australia when I was about 3 or 4.
Oh, so you took the long trip.
I did.
Were you influenced by any of the European or American actors?
Yeah, we get a huge influx of American and English stuff in Australia, so you get to sort of pick and choose who you want to follow, and I have to say Al Pacino is actually one of my favourite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But here you were the heartthrob. I don't think Al Pacino was ever a big heartthrob, was he?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. To a certain extent, he is in my vision, I guess.
You played Errol Flynn at one point?
Yeah, we did a movie of the young life of Errol Flynn while he was still living in Australia, in Tasmania, and when he went to the islands. And yeah.
Did he have an accent like you?
He spoke a little better than me. He was kind of well spoken.
Did you do the role with your accent, or did you have to do an American accent?
I tried. No, I didn't do the American accent.
You also were on stage. You've done a lot of stage work.
Yeah, the last thing I did on stage was an American play called I Hate Hamlet, which I did at home, and then we did Midsummer Night's Dream, and before that I actually did the Australian tour for 12 months of Greece.
So you are a singer and a dancer.
Well, I try.
But you've actually, on most of your shows, you've been a dramatic actor or comedian. What?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of things, really. So I like to sort of vary things and really keep trying different things.
And then as you got into this casting for The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, how did you think you were going to approach that role?
I don't know. A lot of it just sort of comes to you. The script is all there. It's all very funny, and a lot of it developed. Once I met Hugo, who plays Tick, and once I met Terence, who plays Bernadette, and once we sort of started to create a good little team, it just sort of falls into place, I guess.
Did you feel that you were going to be cast in that role? I mean, was it a tough role from being like, when you walk down the street, I'm sure the girls were just screaming after you, and then to see you in this role that's like a drag queen role?
I tend not to worry about what people are going to think. I tend to just try and concentrate on the actual characters and the work that I'm doing. I guess what people think and what the audience's response is kind of just a byproduct of that. I'm aware of it, but...
You had to have the total confidence of your director, Stephen Elliott, to be able to look at you and know you could play the role.
Absolutely. I thank Stefan. I thank him for. I don't know how he saw that, but I guess he did. He's a clever guy.
Did you have to do any research?
We went and saw a few drag shows, and we met up with a few drag queens, and really spent a lot of time checking out the drag clubs and watching their shows and meeting a lot of them and talking to them and trying to find out what they're about. And so that was a lot of fun. The research part was great.
Did you actually get to go on stage with any of them, or were you only just watching them?
They wouldn't let us go on stage. Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
Take their place?
Absolutely.
Working with Terrence Stamp, who's such a great actor, were you intimidated at all, or did you feel self-conscious?
I wasn't self-conscious at all. I mean, he's such an incredible person, and he was such a giving actor. He really allows you to do what it is you want to do, and he enhances what you do. So he's really clever in that way. So I just felt like he was a good mate, a good friend.
We're going to take a break and see a clip from Priscilla, and then we're going to come back and ask you some questions about your costumes.
Sure.
That gentle love and stare. Finally, you come along. The way I feel about you, it just can't be wrong. If you only knew the way I feel about you, I just can't describe it. Oh no, no, finally it's happened to me right in front of my face. My feelings can't describe it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face, and I just cannot hide it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face. My feelings can't describe it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face, and I just cannot hide it. It seems so many times he seemed to be the one, but all he ever wanted was to have a little fun. But now you come along and brighten up my world. In my heart I feel it, I'm that special kind of girl. Finally, you come along. The way I feel about you, it just can't be wrong. If you only knew the way I feel about you, I just can't describe it. Oh no, no, finally it has happened to me right in front of my face. My feelings can't describe it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face, and I just cannot hide it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face. My feelings can't describe it. Finally it has happened to me right in front of my face, and I just cannot hide it.
One thing that I noticed about your role was you were so fit, so buff. Were you working out every day?
I used to work out a lot. I was actually a bodybuilder when I was quite young, so I hadn't worked out for a while properly. So they said to me, "Now, can you get really fit for the movie?" And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll try." So I kind of intensely got into some training before we started, but that pretty much faded away after we finished filming.
No, because I noticed it, and I was wondering if you became too muscular to put on those women's clothes, or did you have to keep it just at a level?
Well, there was a couple of the costumes that were made for thinner men than me, and I'm kind of pretty thin anyway, so they were a little tight, but It was okay.
One kind of secret that I know happened on the set when you had to get into that Marie Antoinette wig.
Yeah.
It didn't work. What happened?
Oh, we had lights inside these wigs. They were like 2-foot tall wigs, and so they had lights in them. And so we had this cord, this power cord running down behind us, and we had to dance around, and we were tripping over the cord and pulling the cord out, and you know, we all thought we were going to electrocute ourselves, but we made it. We got through it.
But wasn't one kind of smashed down?
There was a little kerfuffle that happened in the bus one time, and one of the wigs got a bit squished, so they were trying to sort of fix these things
Did you
up.
fall on it, Guy?
Oh, yeah, it was me. I fell on it. I wrecked the wig.
You wrecked the wig. Do you think this kind of role is going to typecast you, or can you go back to different types of drama?
I don't know. Typecasting is an interesting little concept that happens in an actor's life, and I'm certainly aware of it, but I don't think I'll really need to worry about it. I think I just want to keep doing different things, and who knows? Who knows what might happen? I guess it depends on the exposure of the movie.
The one thing also I want to go back to the costumes, because I read in one of the bios on somebody that they used condoms for the cleavage. Is that right? Is that a joke?
No, it was true. Terrence, it was for Terrence, and his chest, his breasts were condoms that were filled with water, and they had a fridge, and they kept them in there, and they were kept cold because it was hot, and they would put them in, and it would get hot, and they would expand, and they would burst, and so it would be embarrassing, and they would have to stop filming and get some more out of the fridge and put them in, and so it became this everyday ritual thing that, you know, one of Terrence's breasts were going to burst at some point or other, so that was quite funny.
But you didn't have to use that kind of padding.
No. We used the typical standard drag queen boob, as it were, which is kind of just a firm plastic thing. So no, we didn't have any problems with those.
Did you learn a lot of new things that you never knew about costuming?
Yeah.
And makeup? Did you put any of your own makeup on, or?
No, I actually had an amazing guy by the name of Stryker, who was actually a drag queen doing my makeup. We had our own makeup artists.
Really?
And this guy is a genius. So every morning I would sit there for 2 hours, or the days we were doing drag, and watch him do art on my face. So that was really impressive. That was really, it was great to be part of that.
What about the hair? Did you just wear wigs, or did you just use extensions, or?
The wigs were a really important part of the show, and we had a whole ton of them, so we were swapping and changing and saying, no, I don't like this one today. I think I'll wear a red one today.
You do. I think the greatest role is you sitting on top of the bus with all the chiffon floating. Are you an opera buff?
I've become a bit of an opera buff since that. I think that's a really memorable visual in the film. So it worked really well. On paper it looked really good, and filming it was great, and visually now it really works. So you know, that was a really successful part of the movie.
And how did you feel about it?
I loved it.
Did you feel great sitting up
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. Of course I did. I'm happy to sit up there.
What do we see coming up for Guy Pearce next?
I'm working on a television show called The Man from Snowy River, which is being shown on the Family Channel, so I guess we'll see that here.
Okay, great. We'll look for you again, Guy, and thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you.
Hi, wasn't Guy terrific? We want to thank Gramercy Pictures, and we want to thank the Four Seasons Hotel at Beverly Hills for being so gracious and treating us so well when we were there doing the interview. And today I wore a Jenny Key scarf. She's an artist from Australia. So don't go away. We'll be right back with Kathleen Spiegelman. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and I'm with Kathleen Spiegelman in her showroom, K. Spiegelman Interiors, on Almont Drive in West Hollywood. She has a wonderful shop that's so beautiful, and we're here to find out what Kathleen does, how she got started, and how long you've been here. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Joan.
How did this whole career of owning a shop and being involved in interior design start?
It's sort of evolved. I'm originally from Texas, a small ranch, and I just grew up really living vicariously through magazines and books and imagining how it would be to have a glamorous lifestyle in California. and the old wonderful film stars that were here in Hollywood. And I imagine living in a chateau or a wonderful atmosphere, and sort of an international kind of feeling to my imagination.
Well,
That's how it started.
after your imagination took hold, did you have to go to school to learn the process?
Absolutely, right. I was at Texas Women's University, a design student outside of Dallas, and studied interiors and clothing design. So actually, I was a clothing designer for quite a few years.
Oh, so
before I
that-
evolved into doing interiors and then owning a showroom.
That picks up that flair of the way you look and the way you actually make your showroom look. Did you ever
Thank
work
you.
in clothing?
I did. I was a junior executive at Neiman Marcus in their store in Dallas, and I had the pleasure of working with Stanley Marcus's son, Richard, and some other great executives. It was a wonderful experience. I was there for about 5 years.
Were they an influence on you? Because I know Stanley was on the cutting edge of collecting everything.
Absolutely. He was someone I admired greatly, and it was just like my really first real job. And it was so inspiring. He really sort of set the tone for the rest of my creative ambitions, I think.
Kathleen, what happened to your southern accent?
I think it's still there,
I
hiding out.
I don't hear any of it. I would never have dreamed you were a southern girl.
You wouldn't?
No.
Well, I think I've lived in Los Angeles since the early 70s, and I think being here that long, it's just sort of become sort of subsided, and it's no longer there, or it's sort of not obvious.
It's not obvious. How did this showroom come about? Did you work for other interior designers before you opened your own showroom?
No, actually, I did work for myself. I did some homes, and then for friends, and evolved and did other interior design projects, commercial also. And eventually, just really, since I'd done clothing design, also besides working at Neiman's, I'd done clothing design and had a little manufacturing company of my own, and I had sold other stores around the country. That I love manufacturing, so I wanted to really get into manufacturing and really making custom pieces for myself.
But pieces, not clothing,
But-
pieces, furniture.
Absolutely. So I would do reproductions of antique pieces or make my own designs and be able to put them in an ambiance that I could make myself, which is how it all got started.
Well, so you actually did start decorating. Now do you still do decorating? Is that part of the feeling of Kay Spiegelman Interiors?
Well, I haven't done a lot of decorating because this is such a full-time commitment, and I primarily work with decorators, designers, and architects.
I see. So
and
people
we
come
will
to
come
you.
to me, and we design groups of things for them that can be just theirs, that no one will have another one like it, an exclusive piece, or we have our own line that we do. And we can do things just for the end user that's very different,
You have-
avant-garde, whatever.
You have a lot of antiques in the shop. I mean, from all over the world. Do you travel and find those things?
I love traveling, and I've collected since I was, I guess, in high school. Over the years, I just have collected a lot of things. I was very interested in Central and South America and Mexico, and I have a lot of things from that period and from the colonial period of Mexico. And I'm very interested in France, and there were, of course, the French were everywhere. And I have a lot of French country pieces, Louis Philippe. I have rugs, Kalim rugs. I was in Italy recently, and I've gotten some beautiful quality things from Italy. So it's just that I love collecting and traveling, and it sort of works.
So it's all eclectic. It's not
Exactly.
one style.
It's a country style, since
I
I'm a
see.
country girl.
Well, I think, this magazine from Germany, Madame, I'll hold it up so they can see it, has a big 2-page spread on you, and it calls you the country queen. And now we know why. It calls you the country queen.
Well, it was sort of a fun, I think, being from Texas and living in a remote part of Texas where there's not a lot of culture, one has to really fantasize and use your imagination a lot more than you would ordinarily living in a sophisticated cosmopolitan center such as Los Angeles or New York or Paris or other cities around the world. So that I think being in the country does give you time to sort of think about where you're going and what you want to do. So I guess a country queen, I could imagine myself being the queen of
In Italy,
exactly,
in Spain. Because
anywhere.
I was going to say, it doesn't, there's a country part of everything, isn't
Right,
there?
right.
So in America, it's our
Southwest,
south, our southwest.
South or southwest, absolutely.
Do you favor any particular grouping or group of furniture? How would you furnish your house?
Well, at this very moment, my house is done mostly French, and it's a little toward the countryside. It's not so formal. The prior house that I had was really an old Spanish hacienda built in the 20s by a wonderful architect, Roland Coates. And I did that for the period. I really prefer integrity in design. And I really find myself being drawn to livable, comfortable houses, whether they're English or French or Spanish. It doesn't really matter to me as long as there's a purity and integrity to the design element.
That is for you, Kathleen Spiegelman.
exactly.
What are the trends now? What did the designers come in and ask you for? Is there a trend in interior design?
I think there is, and there are always trends in clothing, and the clothing and interiors sort of go along simultaneously or pretty much at the same pace. So I think that things are more not so formally put together as they have been in the past. So if you did a great French country house, you'd mix some exciting things with it. So it wouldn't have to be just pure of the period. You could put in a few objects here and there and mix it. It was a little more livable, a little more eclectic. And I think that is a trend that you'll see not only in this country but around Europe and through other parts of the world.
The mix.
It's more of a mix. And I sort of have done it naturally for many years. And I think it's sort of evolved that other people have the same feeling and are mixing, and it's a little more of a looser kind of eclectic feeling.
What about the idea of wood versus upholstered pieces?
I think there's a place for both. And I think that right now there's a trend not just toward an upholstered piece. You might do a beautiful slip-covered piece, but yet you could also do maybe the frame would be showing with some wood, or maybe there'd be a beautiful old French love seat with some metal showing. And then maybe you would put cushions around that would be from a different period, needlepoint, great rugs, aubusons. You can mix so many wonderful things that were not traditionally done before.
I was just going to say, you talked about slip covering a piece of wood. I mean, slip covering a wooden chair.
Right.
Where we always think of an upholstered piece has to
Right.
be slip covered. But you mean just a straight wooden chair could be slip covered?
Absolutely. You could do just the back, you could do the seat, and maybe you'd sort of be bored. For the summer, you want a little different look than you would in the winter. So you could just do a great fabric and slip cover it. It's less expensive than doing a whole upholstery.
One thing that I notice when I come in is you have these wonderful dried flowers. Is that a trend because live plants are too hard to take care of, or do you mix them?
I mix them because I do that too. I think with dry pieces, in a showroom this size, it's really difficult to keep a lot of live plants everywhere. And I think it's more interesting to have some dried arrangements, and they work with the vase they're in, perhaps. I sort of let the vase or the actual piece tell me what it should be, whether it should have candles in it.
Oh, no, this is
These are
great.
collectible. These are actually ceremonial pots from the highlands of Guatemala. And some of these are just wonderful. They have a lot of symbols that the Indians have done, and these are by hand, and they have.
You'd never think of putting candles
But they
in something.
use some of these in their ceremonies because these are mainly used for religious and for weddings, and sometimes they put fruits and offer candles and fruits and flowers to their gods, and so we sort of like to mix things in a way that maybe they would do.
That's
Depending
really
on the
great.
culture.
You also have a lot of accessories in here, and I noticed from Egypt, from Rome, from Italy. What are your, and this, what is this? What period is this?
This is a lap desk, and it's probably late 18th century, inlaid. It's a wonderful piece. And I've left it intact. Sometimes clients will want something restored so that the velvet is the original, but if they wanted, we could do it with a new velvet or leather. And
Is this all inlaid wood?
this is all inlaid wood. Isn't it wonderful? It's a
This is
beautiful old piece.
And since it's so old, you have some ivory on it.
Just a touch.
Just a
Right,
touch. We
right.
can't have that anymore.
No
can
more.
we?
That's right.
And something
exactly.
like, I think, these tin
Aren't
wall
those
pieces,
charming?
those are so beautiful.
Those are French, and I had a group of those. I found them and just bought every one they had. I just thought they were stunning, and they can be wired. We've actually electrified them for clients, but I prefer them as they were originally with the candles.
What other things do you do? You have some other artistic qualities about you that I think our audience should hear
Well,
about.
I love the piano. I love music, and I started classical piano when I was about 7.
I heard that little accent, piano.
Piano,
I
right? It
heard
came
that.
out.
You did. So you still take lessons.
I still take lessons. I have a wonderful teacher, and here in Los Angeles. And I originally wanted to be a concert pianist, and I just would get so nervous going on stage. And I performed in the nearest city to the area where I'm from in Texas is a town called Shreveport, Louisiana. So I would go and gave little concerts at some of the music clubs in Shreveport, and entered national competition. And I was very serious about it. But the idea of going away to Juilliard and leaving Texas and going to sort of by myself, it was so overwhelming, I just couldn't quite make it. I just decided that I really loved interiors and clothing and a whole environmental feeling of design more than I did piano. But I love it. It's a wonderful hobby, and I'm so happy I have it to fall back on.
Do you try to play every day?
I can't play every day, but I have to play at least several times a week. Otherwise, my teacher, Shirley Howard, will wrap my fingers.
They still do that?
No, she doesn't. She's wonderful.
I think that's so interesting, though, that you would have that almost stage fright type of thing. Is there a way to overcome something like that?
I don't know. I understand a lot of musicians, a lot of artists have the same problem with stage fright. I just would go onto stage and my hands would start perspiring. I'd always have a handkerchief next to me. Once I get on stage, I would usually be all right. But until I got there, for months, I was really having a hard time. So in the end, when I was in college, I changed over from being a major in music to design.
Well, we love being here with you, and you've been such a wonderful, giving person to my show.
Thank
because
you.
you have always done the sets for so long now. You've been so gracious about it, and I think your graciousness comes out because I know you've done so many celebrities. You've worked for so many designers who do so many celebrity homes, and they are aware of the graciousness. I don't know if I can get any names out of you, but
I don't want to be a name dropper.
I think that's why they love coming in here so much. I know I can park out in the front and watch all kinds of celebrities come and go, but I know you would never say anything about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, thanks very much for being
Thank
with
you,
us,
Joan.
and thank you for everything you've done for